get going. Boom. Kind of need something to tilt this up on. Let's see. Is that gonna work? I think that'll work. All right, we'll see. See if anybody come in the building. So, meanwhile, meantime, in between time, I'm gonna get some work done. Let's see if we can turn this a little bit. Boom. Man, what is going on? One person in the building. I figured I'd try this live out. I never done a live before. I enjoy watching other people's lives, but I figured I'd jump on here and see what's going on. Hey, what's going on, Tim? I saw your comments. I saw your comments in the on the last video that I was on. So, man, that's crazy. You from Jackson, or not from Jackson, but from up in that area, enjoying Hawaii. Man, that's crazy. I've been out there a couple times. I've been in Hawaii like 5 different times, man. It was all while I was in the military when I was stationed over in Okinawa. Every time we flew back over with the jets, we stop in Hawaii, and I make sure I was on that crew. And we always find a way to have at least one of the jets break down while we were over there. So we got to stay in Hawaii a few extra days. But oh yeah, he being stationed out there in Okinawa. Yeah, Okinawa's cool, man. I loved it when I was out there. They drugged me out of Hawaii kicking and screaming when I was in the military. I had a blast. My whole life kind of changed when I was out there. I think I was 20, had just turned 21, and I had a blast out there, man. It's the most work I've ever done, the hardest work I've ever done, but some of the most fun, and I made lifelong relationships while I was out there in Okinawa, man. Traveled all over the world from there too, so I got no complaints. I got really big into cars when I was out there and everything, the whole drifting scene and all of that. So yeah, it's good. It's good to be back. Welcome back where? To YouTube or back to the US? I've been back to the US now I got back in 05. So what's that? 12 years ago? 12 years ago I got back in the US. YouTube, it's been a minute, but that's why I wanted to jump on here today, because I've been slacking, you know, on videos. I just shot a video before this, actually, but I still got to drop it in the editor and come back to Hawaii. Now, I might not come back if I go to Hawaii, man. I love it out there, too. Had some of the best times ever, met some of the coolest people ever out there, man, that I'm still cool and connected with today, so everything's going good. In the video I just shot, this stuff is going to be redundant for you, whoever the 2 people are in here. I don't know who the other person is, but this will be redundant once I drop the video that I just shot. But things are going good, man. The second job thing is, I don't know if you watched any of my other videos, Tim. I forgot that we kind of connected over the Erica Williams video, right? So I know you may not have been familiar with everything that's going on with me or whatever, but if you did watch one of my videos at least, because you commented on it, but I do software development, so yeah, the second job, and I'm watching your videos. Okay, cool. So you know, I do the software development thing. I got the I landed that second job. I've been working it now for a month, the last month, and it's good. Today's actually payday. Today's the 15th. So I think they both pay on the same schedule. on the 15th and the last day of the month. So this will be the second paycheck I got from the second job, and things have been amazing, man. I can't even front. They've been amazing. It feels good. Make it rain. Yeah, I know. I could if I wanted to, but yeah, that's cool. I don't carry cash like that though. I can make some debit cards and credit cards rain. That's about it. Um, but things been good, man. You know, we moved into this new house. The house has been about a month. I moved into the new house about the same time that I started that second job, I think. About month and a half ago, we moved into the house, and I started the second job like 2 weeks after that. And things have been good ever since then. There's been a lot to do at the new house. You know, we had the whole house painted, put shutters on this thing. Shutters expensive, bro. Like we just did 4 windows downstairs, and those 4 windows cost like $2,200 or $2,400 or something like that, just to get those 4 windows done. So we just did downstairs for now. Upstairs cost like $4,000 to get all the windows in the bedrooms and everything done. So we split that in half, did the downstairs, painted the whole house. We got a brand new washer and dryer, and a big sectional too. So we dropped a lot of cash. That wasn't all my cash though. Cash from me. My old lady's grandma gave us a very gracious endowment for a housewarming gift. So she gave us like 5 racks. So we used, a lot of that money for stuff like that. And then of course the lady went crazy with, not crazy, but she had a good time going to all these decorating stores and stuff like that. Z Gallery, places I'd never heard of before, Z Gallery and all this other, home goods, all this stuff. So decorating the house. She been having a good time doing that. And that's it. Both the kids been in the school, man. They loving it. One of the best decisions I made for my son. He's excelling so well in there. So it feels good, man. I literally have no complaints right now. I've got no complaints. So I'm sitting here at my desk right now. You hear these the Slack messenger going off. I got both laptops up. Both laptops with monitors. So job number 1 and job number 2. So I'm actively like working at the same time. I figured I'd jump on live and get stuff done too. So that's what you hear going off in the background. Yeah, man, it don't take much. Regardless of whatever you're doing, you don't have to get into programming. For me, if you watch any of my videos, programming for me was something that I started to do right out of high school when I went to college, but I wasn't college ready at the time. I had a partial scholarship out of college because I did pretty good. I had a 3.4 GPA out of high school, but I scored well on my down there in Mississippi, they don't take SATs, they take the ACT. So I took the ACT and I scored well enough to get at least a partial scholarship to the local junior college down there. And I was going for programming, man, but I was running around chasing girls, partying. I wasn't mentally focused. So I ended up dropping my GPA so low they was about to kick me out of school. And I lost my scholarship and all that stuff. But everything happens for a reason, like they say. That's what led me to get into the military. J-State. That's what got me in the Air Force and took me away, and that was the best move I could have ever made because I needed that structure and discipline to get my stuff together, man. And from there, and that point is where I really started educating myself financially. I read that book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And that's what opened my mind to like not just getting a job and working it for the rest of my life, and that's what life was going to be. That there could be more to it by investing or owning a business, and not even a small business but a big business type thing. So that's what changed me at that point, and that would have never happened if I would have stayed in small town Mississippi, you know, because um, I love I love my home and the people and stuff back there. But you know, if you ever go get out of Jackson or any of these kind of mini cities in Mississippi, like it's a different world, man. It's a different way of thinking. That the pace is a lot slower. So yeah, it's definitely different when I go home. So, but anyway, uh, yeah, it is, man. It is. If you want to, if you want to, I always say Mississippi is a great place to retire, but it's not the place to build your career. You know, it's early in your life. If you're trying to make moves and get stuff done, uh, Mississippi just isn't the. It's not the spot for if you're a mover and a shaker. You're trying to do some big things. I just don't think it's the place to be. But I love it. I love my folks, you know, and I try to pull some of the people I grew up with. You know, I try to at least plant the seed in their head that, like, you know, hey, maybe you can, you know, get away from it, even if you don't want to come as far away as I did. You know, going out west, I'm the only one from my family, I think, this west of the Mississippi River. Um, but even if they leave and just go to somewhere else, a lot of them will leave and like go to Atlanta, because that's not. I mean, that's a 5 hour drive. It's not super far away. It's close enough to where they can still drive home on a weekend type thing, but it's far enough away to be away. But it's even better if you can kind of get out of that whole environment down there and go somewhere where you're around other people getting stuff done. So I like it out here in Vegas. Um, yeah, yeah, I know. That's crazy. I like it out here in Vegas, man. When I worked down on the strip at the hotel, uh, I was working front desk down there and concierge down there. And I think out of 3 or 4 years that I worked down there on the strip, I think I checked in 2 people from the great state of Mississippi in 4 years. And they, you know, people just from down there, they just don't come out here, man. So it's crazy. It's really, really wild. But I like it out here in Vegas. Yeah, Vegas is cool, man. And it's got a whole nother side to it. Like, so many people only see the strip and they think Vegas is just all casinos and lights and flashing. But to be honest, that's not even the Vegas that I know. I'm looking out the window right now, just looking like this ain't what I see out my window is not the Vegas that most people think of, you know? Let me see. So this is out. That might be too bright. If you can see, yeah, like this is the Vegas I know. It's all communities and neighborhoods out here, you know. And these people probably have nothing to do with the strip. Most locals have nothing to do with the strip, you know. It's a whole nother city outside of here, outside the strip. Yeah, you got plenty of people that work on the strip in Vegas, but there's a whole nother city. I explained it like, imagine Phoenix, Arizona, with a strip of casinos in it. That's kind of what living in Vegas is like. And I like it out here because it's pretty well socially progressive out here. People don't care about dumb stuff out here. I tell people the only color that matters in Vegas is green, baby. That's all they care about is cash and making cash. And if you make cash, you cool. That's crazy. Nah, you ain't taking away from my video, man. I just jumped on here to see if anybody got questions about anything that I can answer live. What it's like to, you know, be a programmer or anything like that. To answer those type questions. So I've seen a couple people jump in and out, but I haven't really seen anybody else commenting on the deal. So if whoever comment, you know, I'm gonna talk to, engage with. So if you're the only one that's commenting, then hey, I'm gonna talk to you. If somebody else is on here want to chat, then we can definitely chat. Being a programmer, I love it. It's the best money making decision, career decision that I could have ever made, man. I get to sit here in front of these computers and solve problems all day, and I get paid a very good living to do so. And now it has enabled me to be able to sit here in my own home. You know what I'm saying? I get to work from home every day. I wake up every day, come downstairs to this office. I sit down, open up the 2 laptops, and I get to work, you know, for both of them. And when payday comes, it's a good day. You know, the checks are good. You know what I'm saying? So I got nothing to complain about at all. At all, you know. The bank accounts are good, which means that the family is good and well off, and it's all from me sitting here at these computers writing code every day, you know. You want to start a development company, man, that's just that's getting you some good developers, and then networking. It's all networking and who you know. One of the companies that I work for now, the main company, the first company that I was with, out of the 2 companies I work for, they're just that. They're a development company. So they just write software. They land clients and they build software for those clients. Their client just happens to be the U.S. government. So they have registered to be able to bid on contracts with the U.S. government, and they win those contracts, and they have hired a bunch of developers and project managers and all of that stuff, business analysts and all the people that you need to be able to build large software suites. And they bid on these contracts, and they win them, and they get to working the contract, building the software. Right now we're building software for the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid for providers, so that if you're a clinic or a doctor's office and you accept Medicare and Medicaid, you have to report back to the government certain statistics on the people that you see, and we are refreshing the software that those clinics and medical providers use to be able to report back to the U.S. government, to the Center for Medicare and Medicaid, so that they can stay compliant and continue to receive or get paid from those people. So that's one of the big projects. That's the big project that I'm working on for the first company that I'm with. They're not a part of the government. They're just a software company that won a government contract. There's a lot of money in that. It can be very, very lucrative. I'm sure they're getting millions and millions of dollars from that contract to build that piece of software. Now they've got a bunch of developers, so they're putting out a lot of money, paying salaries, but I can guarantee you that they're putting a lot of money in their pocket just from having the idea of starting a software consultancy and targeting the U.S. government, because there's a lot of money to be made in that. So that's what it is. For me, you can start a lot of places, or people will start off doing freelance stuff. There's so many different avenues when it comes to being a software developer, especially if you're doing freelance and trying to start a company. You can get into a world of doing like WordPress stuff. If you think of when I tell most people I'm a web developer, they say, "Oh, can you build me a site?" And it's like, yeah, that's not the type of development that I personally like to do. Most people think of like a brochure site, which is like something you would see at the local pizza place, mom and pop pizza place, or a hair salon, or whatever it is, where they just build a site and it's more of a brochure. You don't interact with it as a person. You just go there and it lists out all the services that they have, or all the different menu items that they have, and you can see it and place your call. That's kind of really boring to me personally. Now there's a lot of money to be made. People make thousands upon thousands of dollars building these pretty simple, once you learn WordPress, little WordPress sites, and that is their entire freelancing business. And they do that for years and years and years, and they make thousands and thousands of dollars freelancing, building these sites for mom and pop companies, which is cool. I like to do more complex stuff, like building the software that we're building right now. Or with the second company, we do kind of big data analytics to where, let me see. So the second company I'm with, they aggregate a lot of data and present that out. Pre-made themes and ads, exactly. So you can kind of piecing stuff together. A lot of stuff is done for you, and you piece it together, and somebody pays you $5,000 for their site or $10,000 for their site or whatever it may be. I know the salon that my lady worked for, they paid $10,000 to this guy for a site, and you could tell, I could tell instantly it was a WordPress site from a template. He put a custom background on it and charged them like $10,000. And now it's stuck, and they can't modify it. They can't do anything to it, you know. I'm like, they paid $10,000 for this guy, and it probably took him a week to do, if that, you know. Matthew, hey, I emailed you. Did you? I got to check my email. I'm going to be honest, the Black Knight Coding email, I don't check enough. But Slack's going on. But if you Slack me in the Slack channel, I'll get it. You just heard Slack go off in the background. Like, I have two laptops up right here, and they both have Slack going on, and they both have the Slack for the Black Knight Coding Slack channel. So if you join that Slack channel and you Slack me, I will get it right then. I know somebody is slacking me right now, but I just happen to be on this live. Let me see if I can pull it up. Okay. None of those Slacks are from there. Okay, cool. I know somebody had asked, what are you running your live through? I'm just on my iPhone, man, on the YouTube app. And I press go live. I'm a mobile dev in the Bay, and my dream city is Vegas, but it's not a major tech center. You know what? You got a good point. Let me see how. There we go. Okay, now I can see all the comments. So you write code that allows you to drag and drop. What are you really live to? Okay, so Matthew. So the man, if you're in the Bay, you know, a lot of people dream about being in the Bay, but being in the Bay is expensive, man. I had actually landed a job in the Bay from a smaller kind of startup company, and they were offering me $140,000 a year, right? But I had to look at it. State of Nevada has no state income tax, right? So I don't get anything taken out from the state of Nevada. Once I moved to California to take that job, I think California is 13% state income tax. So that instantly took away over $14,000 plus another 3%. So call it $16,000, $17,000 was gone from that 140 right off the bat. And then the cost of living to get a little small 1-bedroom apartment out there was like over $2,000 a month, $2,500 a month. And that's just for rent, not including all the utilities that I would have to pay and all of that. It was just, it didn't financially make sense. So that's what it was. I had dropped down to 1% on my phone. I think it was about to die on me, but I got it on the charger now, so we should be good. Yeah, that was the biggest thing, man. Out here in Vegas, you can still rent. You can rent a 3-bedroom, 2-bath house out here for $1,200 a month. You know, all day long, $1,300 a month, easy. But out there to get a 1-bedroom for $2,000, $2,500, like that was ridiculous, man. Vegas is not a big tech center, which is something I talked about, I think, in an early video. So it's a very small community, close-knit community out here. And once there's only a couple big players here in town as far as being a developer. So if I lived in Vegas, I live in Vegas, and the best thing I did was go remote, like you said. But remote dev jobs aren't as prominent. Web remote jobs, yeah. Uh, you definitely have to compete for them, man. But I tell you what, if you get the first one under your belt, on your resume and on your LinkedIn and everything, put remote in front of your job title so that people can see that you have remote experience. Because that's one of the biggest things that other companies want to see is that you have worked remote before. Because some people do not do well in remote. If you are not a self-starter, if you wake up in the morning and you can't get up and get out of your bed to start working remote, to start working remote on your own. Like I get up every day and by 8 o'clock every morning, I'm downstairs in my office, going to work. And nobody had to make me get out of bed or whatever. Because when you're remote, you could really get up when you want to get up. Different companies are different. Some will have meetings and stuff online that you have to jump online to do an online meeting at a certain time. But my first meeting every day is usually 10:30 in the morning. For the little startup job I do, me and the other solo developer, we do a touch bases every day at 10:30. So that's the first little 10-minute meeting I have to do. And I could lay in the bed until then if I wanted to. But you got to be a self-starter. You got to be able to get stuff done on your own. And you have to be able to work on your own without the help of other people. Because, like as you can see, I'm here by myself. If I run into a problem, you got to be good at being able to research it on your own and come up with your own solutions without being able to tap on your fellow developer's shoulder, sit next to you to have him look at your code and maybe give you some ideas and answers. So people want to see that you have the ability to work remote before they will take a shot at working remote on you. But once I had that first remote under my belt, especially like a year of remote, then it kind of seemed like everything opened up. But it's hard getting that first remote gig. So, I mean, I was lucky enough to land 2 of them, and I feel lucky and blessed to be able to do that. But I work really hard to keep them both satisfied. So I haven't necessarily told both of them that I work for another company. So as far as they know, I only work for them. Company A only thinks I work for Company A. Company B only thinks I work for Company B. And it's my job to manage my time between both of them. So, I'll get up and I'm starting at 8 in the morning, and I'll be working till, last night I was working till past 9:30 at night, something like that. But it's something about it. It's different when you're working remote and working from home. I work more hours working remote from home than I ever did when I was in the office. But it's because I want to do well at both of these jobs, so that I continue to have the opportunity to be able to work remote and work from home and have the flexibility, to go take my kids to school in the morning if my wife can't make it, or if I need to pick them up, or if my son's having a school play or something like that, I can take an hour to run down to the school and watch his play in the middle of the day, or whatever it may be. If I got a doctor's appointment, anything like that, it's easy and flexible to get done. All they care about when you're remote is, can you get the workload that you're supposed to get done by this deadline? Can you get it done by that deadline? If you can, then they really don't care kind of when you code or when you get stuff done, as long as you can get your workload done. And that's what I love about it. And to me, I'm never going back to an office, man. Never, ever. If I ever did, if something horrific happened and I lost both of these jobs and I had to scramble and go back to an office job, I would take an office job, but continue to look continuously to get that, to get a new remote job. And I'd be going out of there. As soon as I got the first bite on a remote job, I'd be gone, man. Let's see. Where did you find remote jobs? Are they advertised as remote? There's a place called, if you go to weworkremotely.com, that's a big one. If you go on to stackoverflow.com, they have a jobs tab at the top. If you click on that jobs tab, and then you can put in your criteria for whatever it is. I would type in, for me, Angular because I like writing in Angular for web stuff. So that's kind of what I specialize in, is writing Angular applications. I write in Angular, and then they have a checkbox, I think, that says accepts remote, or remote okay, or something like that, meaning that the employer will accept remote workers as an option. I check that box and I write in Angular, and there went a whole list of them, and I just go down replying. I have a cover letter that I saved in Google Docs that I would copy and paste that cover letter. I would change it to customize it to that particular employer, mention things in there that they were talking about in the job description, attach my resume to it, and send it off. And that was it. I'd literally do 30, 40 a day sometimes. And then out of those, I would do volume in applying. And then out of those, I would get back X amount, let's say 10%. If I put out 30 resumes, I might get 3 responses back, do 2 coding challenges or phone interviews and coding challenges, and then see what comes of that. You know, you'll get back plenty of emails that say, you know, sorry, your skills didn't, you know, meet the criteria. We chose somebody else and didn't choose you. But it doesn't matter. Those don't hurt my feelings. I keep applying and applying and applying and applying and applying until somebody say yes. Somebody is going to choose the brother to work for him. And then once you get your foot in the door, you just got to perform. Once you perform, it's good. I don't know what that means. Man, the kind of work ethic you have is my goal. Any chance we could get a little day in the life type of video where we see little snippets of the kind of stuff you do? I'm really curious. I might could. Here's the tough thing about a day in the life, Q Master, is that a lot of times, well, especially for the job I work with the government, well, for both of them actually, they don't want their, I can't show the code. It's kind of, especially the second job, the startup, it's kind of proprietary stuff. Oh, what they do, I didn't finish talking about that, is they take big data and aggregate it, and they create lists that creates connections between people. So it's kind of creepy. It's kind of Big Brother-ish. They create lists like terrorist. Oh, I can't say that word today. Terrorist watch lists and stuff like that. So if I'm a suspected terrorist or known terrorist, they can ingest a lot of data and create connections to people that I am connected to, so that they can kind of know that, you know, this person is connected to this person who is a suspected terrorist, so you might want to watch that person too, type thing. So it's a little, but I don't deal with that part of it. I just create the, you know, the client-facing part of it, where you can see these connections and stuff like that. I don't run the engine or code the engine that makes the connections and ingest the data and processes it and stuff. I just receive the results of that and make it legible so people can see those things. But of course, that software is proprietary, and that's how they make their money, is from being able to do things like this. They do stuff like, that's not all they do, is like terrorist watch lists or no-fly lists and stuff like that. But they also do stuff like when you go to Smith's and you have your little Smith's card that you scan for your savings. They'll take that data and aggregate it with all the other little, you know, rewards cards and stuff you get, and create a picture of you and your shopping habits, sell that stuff to advertisers, and now advertisers send you targeted ads because they know what your shopping habits are, or you know, send you discounts on their product because they know you like to buy this particular product every so often at these places. So all kinds of crazy stuff like that is what the second one does. And I kind of liked it because it was different and cool stuff, and I know stuff like that is only going to get bigger in the future. So so anyway, I digress. It's hard for me to show the code and the product, because I really want, there's there's stuff that I work on that I really want to be able to show you as I run into problems and be like, oh man, this would be a great one. Yeah, it is some Big Brother stuff. But there's some problems that I work on that have me stumped, and I'll come up with a solution. And it's like, man, I really want to like screencast it and show you what the problem was I had and how I came up with the solution and how I implemented it. Would be great training stuff. But in order for me to do that, I would have to kind of create a separate little mock with some fake data that made no sense and then show you there. So what it would end up doing is just creating extra work for me. Not only do I have to work job number 1 and job number 2, I would have to do that extra work as well. So I really don't have the time to be able to do that. But I run into stuff like that all the time, all day, every day. What is this person? Lord of Savages. Is this Dan's house? I don't know who Dan is. They probably just trolling. Who else had questions? Do you... AP Skinler. Okay, I'm going back up. Do you believe in the beginning to development job in 3 months stories that are out there? I don't understand your question, AP Skinler. Do you believe in the beginner to development job in 3 months stories that are out there? Can you go from being a beginner to getting a job in 3 months? I have heard of those stories of people that, started and had a job, within a few months of starting to develop and write code. You can definitely do that. It's really just up to the company. I'll tell you, if a company picks you up knowing that you only have 3 months of development experience, then it's probably a beginner. Not probably a beginner position. It's definitely a beginner position, and they probably are looking for somebody cheap. But that's not necessarily a bad thing because that gets the first thing on your resume. As long as you're in a position, everybody's life situations are different, right? So as long as you're in a position where you don't need to make a ton of money, but you need the experience more than the money, then I say go for it and take it. So they'll probably have you doing some what may be considered menial tasks, like just maybe updating some HTML. If it's web stuff, for example, maybe you're just updating some HTML or changing the color on some background. Hey, 50, 60K a year? Well, if you watch my income video, my first development job was $55,000. So for a developer, depending on the area that you're in as well, if you go $55,000 to the guy that's working in the Bay, I bet you he wouldn't take $55,000. Ain't gonna get you very far in San Francisco, like I said. But if you're working down in Southern Mississippi, where I'm from, if you're making $60K a year, hey, that's a decent living. In small town Mississippi, your expenses ain't high. My sister bought a house down there for $60,000 or $70,000. I think her mortgage every month was like $300 something. So if you're making 60 grand, you're doing okay. So it's all relative, depending on where you're at. Even East Coast, amongst the East Coast, it varies a lot too, because East Coast can be, small town South Carolina, where that money can go far, or it can be Washington, D.C., which is super expensive, or Boston, which is super expensive, or New York City, which is ultra expensive. So East Coast, that varies a lot, man, in what you want or where you're at. But if you're getting 50K, 60K, that's good for a first, kind of started. That's where I started out at least 50K. But I've heard of people making as little as high 20s or 30,000, 30-something thousand to be a developer. You can go on Craigslist. I can go on Craigslist here in Vegas and find places that want to pay $15 an hour uh, for a developer, you know, which to me is nuts. Like, I made that on the Strip. I made more than that working at a hotel. Are there affluent black communities in the Las Vegas area? There's not. If you missed the conversation we were having earlier where I said I love Vegas, and one of the reasons why I love Vegas is because it's very socially progressive, meaning that being from Southern Mississippi, everything in Southern Mississippi is black or white. Like the entire state, I think if you add black and white together, make up 98% of the population or something ridiculous like that. You can fact check me on it, but it's a very high percentage of the ethnic demographics in the state of Mississippi is either black or white. At least when I was growing up there, it may be a little more diverse now, but when I was growing up there, that was it. So everything was kind of segmented like that, where you would have black areas of the city or area or community or whatever it is, and then known white areas where it was mostly white people living at. But out here, man, it's not like that. Like, I told Tim, the only color that matters in Vegas is green, baby. That's all they care about is money. And it's cool. Like, there's so many like interracial relationships and stuff. Like, my lady's 3/4 Mexican and 1/4 white. So our kids are mixed, of course. But those concepts don't even reign in Vegas. You know, they don't reign supreme because everybody is with everybody and anybody. And I hate to say those stupid things, but when I look at them now, those stupid things like that don't make sense out here in Vegas. Don't get me wrong, not to say that there ain't no racist people in Vegas or no kind of crazy stuff like that. Of course, that's everywhere. Everyone has their own biases and stuff like that, but there isn't a undertone of this is a black community and this is a white community. Like, here, there's all kind of people here in my neighborhood. There's all kind of people here, man. There's Doug next door is a white guy. There's an older retired gentleman on this side. This side of me, that's a white guy, super nice. Actually, he's the dad of a very big YouTuber that has like 4 million followers. H3 Productions, I think, is his channel name or something like that. That's his son's channel name. And he lives next to me. When I first moved in, you know, a month or two ago, he told me that. So, just looking for best places to prosper. Vegas is a great place to prosper, man, because as far as the West Coast, I call this still West Coast, even though it doesn't touch the Pacific. Vegas is one of the cheapest cost of living places to be and still be in the Western United States. You know, anywhere in California. Okay, almost anywhere in California is going to be ridiculously expensive to live. And when I did searches for jobs, when I took that job in Denver, I did searches around Nevada, including like down into Arizona and up around into Utah and Colorado and up into, I think, Idaho or something like that. And even looking in Utah, like Salt Lake City and Denver is like super expensive. It's in the top 5 or 6 most expensive places in the U.S. to live. You just can't beat, when you live here in Vegas, it's hard to leave here because it's anywhere else you go, you're going to pay more money for the cost of living. You're going to pay more for rent, for gas, for any of that stuff. So I'm here now and it's hard to pull me away. And there's no state taxes in the state of Nevada. So that's a big draw for me because I work for a company out of D.C. that pays me like I live in D.C., which is pretty expensive to live. But I get the benefit of getting that kind of pay, but living in Las Vegas with no state tax, and the cost of living is super low. So I get those benefits from living here. So, do I like the Hangover movies? Why? Because they were filmed in Vegas? Not really. People that live here in Vegas kind of hate the movies that's made about Vegas, because they always portray Vegas in the wrong light. Like, that's not really Vegas. If you live in Las Vegas, that is not the lifestyle that you live. People that come to Vegas thinking that that is the Vegas, the glitz, the glamour, the casinos and all that stuff, they usually live in Vegas for less than a year, because you burn yourself out. You burn through all your money. If you're trying to beat the casinos and gamble, you're going to lose. Or if you have any kind of vices, Vegas ain't the place. If you got a vice on women or men, Vegas will supply. If you got a drug vice, Vegas will supply. If you got an alcohol vice, Vegas will supply. They serve alcohol 24 hours a day, 7 days a week here. So it will eat you alive if you are a person who cannot control your vices, and they don't last here. And those are the people that you will meet that say, I lived in Vegas and I hated it, because they were probably one of those people. So most people don't like those movies like Hangover or any other movie that glamorizes this Vegas. We went to Vegas and had a blast partying and drugs and all this stuff. Vegas locals we can't stand that stuff, man, because they don't get to see the neighborhoods and stuff. Like I showed Tim. I think he was the only one in there. This is the Vegas that I know. If the camera, like, see that, it's a neighborhood, it's community with people and cars, and that's the Las Vegas that I know. It's not the casinos and all of that stuff. So let me plug back in here. All right, let's see what other questions we got. Are you a full stack developer or mainly front end? Right now, I'm mainly front end, man. I do full stack stuff with Node, but I'm getting paid really well just to do front end stuff. So hey, I mean, if they're gonna pay me good money to do just front end stuff, I'll do front end stuff. So that's what I'm doing now, really building Angular applications, everything within the frame of Angular. Today I'm working on integrating some D3 stuff into the Angular application we're working on. D3 is a charting software that allows you to make all these cute, cool, donut charts and bar graphs and splatter charts and all this stuff like that. So that's it. Mostly front end stuff for me on the web. We're doing an Electron. We have an Electron application for job number 2, so you can run that as a desktop application if you're not familiar with Electron. The Slack client, if you download Slack, that is an Electron application that is built with HTML and CSS and JavaScript, and then wrapped to be able to function like it is a desktop application. If you download Google Keep, which is like a notes software from Google, that client is a Electron application. Visual Studio Code is a coding editor that is written in Electron, and the Atom code editor is an Electron application, which is written with front-end technologies, HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. So cool. Now I see why so many people leave Hawaii for Vegas. Yeah, man, it's funny because they call Vegas the 9th island, actually. It has the largest Hawaiian or Polynesian population outside of the Hawaiian Islands. So on the mainland, more Hawaiians live here in Las Vegas than in any other city, which is crazy because it's in the desert. You would think you go from this island, beautiful tropical place. Why would you go to the desert in Las Vegas? But a lot of people move here, man. I think it has a lot to do with what I mentioned before. There's no state tax, and the cost of living is super low to still be on the West Coast. So they could have stopped in California, but the cost of living is as much as it is to live in Hawaii, which is super expensive as well. But if you come 4 hours away, 4 hours from LA, the cost of living is low, man. So that's crazy. So if you perform full stack duties as a developer and work remotely, what is the potential income since you are just front end? That varies. That varies by the company, I'd say. Full stack. Technically, the first job that I'm working with now, I'm hired as a full stack developer. But they split off into teams. We have team 1, team 2, team 3. Team 1 and 2 are mostly front end. Team 3 is all back end. So even though I'm a full stack developer and getting paid as a full stack developer, I only do front end work, just because of the team assignment that I got assigned to. So, and you know, if you watch any of my old videos, you know how much I make from that first job. So not a big deal there. So let's see. How do you... Yes. Boom. Thank you, Cannabis Cultivator, teaching me how to block people. Cool. Banned. Yeah, he was a troll, man. Hey, that's cool. First live stream, first troll. I ain't got no problem with that. So that's it. Any more? I did. I deleted. I didn't just delete him. I banned him. So it's all good. Which languages? Matthew asks. I do most of my coding in JavaScript. So if you're familiar with the Angular JS framework, or Angular framework rather, it's a JavaScript framework, very similar to like React and Angular and Ember are kind of the three big JavaScript frameworks. There's other stuff out there like Vue.js and definitely other frameworks besides that, but those are the big three that will get you work. And even more so, out of the three, Angular and React are really the kind of big two that's going to get you a lot of work on the front end doing JavaScript. So I chose one of those, which is Angular, and that's what I went full force into. If you learn one of them, though, you can kind of go between them without much problem. So HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, if you want to work web front end, those are the three technologies you need to know. HTML and CSS are not really programming languages. Those are markup languages and style presentation. HTML is just markup. It creates the structure of the page. It says where the different things are positioned on the page. CSS adds styles to those things, so it changes the color and the font size and and how bold things is, and you can reposition stuff on the page with CSS as well. It's added transitions and transforms, and you can flip stuff and rotate stuff with CSS. But the JavaScript is where you get your interactivity from. So with JavaScript, I can make calls out to a web server, a backend, pull data into my application, manipulate that data, display it on the screen, and the client or customer or whatever can make changes to that data, and JavaScript will resend that back off to the server and say, save this new data. So JavaScript is really the language of the web. If you want to be a web developer, you kind of got to know JavaScript. And if you know JavaScript, you can work on the back end as well using Node, which is a server-side language that is written in JavaScript. So if you know JavaScript, you can do Node for the back end, Angular, React, or just straight vanilla JavaScript, or jQuery library or whatever to do front end stuff. So you're kind of covered all the way around there. I started off, my first language was PHP, is what I took on Treehouse. If you watch those videos, or if you saw the commercial that Treehouse shot about me, I took their PHP track, which is a back-end scripting language, which kind of gets pooped on by a lot of real back-end developers that code in something like Java or Go or Python or any of that stuff like that. But PHP has come a long way since the early 2000s, I'd say. All right, let's see. Y'all excited to get the Raiders? Yeah, there's a lot of people excited. It's kind of mixed feelings because a lot of people weren't Raiders fans, but now the Raiders are coming to Vegas. So it's like, we're happy to have our own team, but a lot of people just weren't fans of the Raiders to begin with. So I think it'll take a couple of years to really build that fan base up for it to be huge and humongous. But Nevada didn't have any professional sports teams, so they're going to get a lot of people that's just excited to have a professional sports team. I've never lived anywhere that had professional sports. The state of Mississippi has no professional sports teams, which is why college is huge there. College football is like everything in the state of Mississippi. I moved to Memphis, Tennessee when I got kicked out pretty much of college. and Memphis, Tennessee is actually where I joined the Air Force from. I moved to Memphis though before they had the Titans and the Memphis Grizzlies basketball, so they had 0 sports teams. And then I went from there overseas to Japan for 4 or 5 years, and then from Japan I moved to Nevada, which had 0 sports teams. So I've never lived anywhere that had professional sports. One of the bonuses for when I took the job in Denver, and I basically spent 7 months out of the year living in a hotel in Denver, was that Denver has every professional sports team you can think of. They got, of course, the Denver Broncos, the Colorado Rockies for baseball, the Denver Nuggets for basketball. They have 2 professional lacrosse teams because professional lacrosse has an indoor lacrosse and an outdoor lacrosse league that are both different. They got soccer there. Pretty much any professional sports you can think of, the city of Denver, Colorado has it. And I had no clue. I hadn't put it together that they had the Rockies and the Nuggets and, of course, the Super Bowl champs or previous Super Bowl champs there as well. So that's cool. But yeah, long story short, people are going to be happy to get the Raiders. Ruby on Rails, C++. Yeah. Ruby on Rails will get you a lot of work. A lot of startup companies use Ruby on Rails. So you can get a ton of work with that. If you were in the Bay Area where the other guy is, there's probably a ton of stuff for Ruby on Rails. Vegas is so unique, man. If you're here in Vegas, back-end languages are really just going to be Java and C#, because those were big languages that the casinos would use, and the casinos kind of drove the tech industry for a long time. So they didn't get on board with this newest, latest, and greatest, even though Ruby on Rails isn't really new. There's a lot of that. A lot of C++ for the slot machines and stuff. There's gaming companies here that build the games for all those different slots and stuff, and they use C++ to build those games. So you can get work with C++ here in Vegas. But Ruby on Rails is going to be more startup-y, small companies getting stuff done. But Ruby on Rails guys get paid pretty decent, man. Jake, thanks for being real on the channel. The video on your salary increase story was fantastic and inspiring. Good, man. Hey, it was fantastic for me too, because it was good being able to go up the ranks like that, man. So, and I wanted to put that out there so that other people can see that and know that they can know that it could be done. You don't have to sit at a certain level for years. I know people that will stay at a company for years and not get a big bump in pay for years and years and years, man. You get your biggest pay increases as a developer, for me, and what I've seen, is when you switch companies. Now, there's pros and cons there. You don't want to be seen as a job hopper. And when I got this second job, matter of fact, one of the questions they asked me was, looking at your resume, I see that you've kind of moved around a lot. And they asked me, what was that about? So I had to explain that. Why I changed jobs, the reasoning for each job. Well, the startup I was with, I really loved it there, but they ran out of money and they closed the doors. And overnight, they said, don't come to work tomorrow. We can't pay you. And this company, when I went to Denver, that was supposed to be fully remote, but then they switched it up on me and said, hey, we really want you to kind of be here for the first 6 months, and 6 months turned into 7 months and 8 months. And that wasn't what I signed up for, because I have a family that can't move. They were here in Vegas. I was in Denver. I got small kids that got old kind of really quick. So I had to explain all of that to them, because they didn't want to just be another number job for me, hopping to. Now, I didn't go in and say, well, I'm not leaving my old job. Y'all are going to be job number 2. I didn't tell them that. But yeah, that's the reality of things. You gotta kind of go between jobs if you want to get your biggest pay raises. And you saw those jumps. Some of those jumps was 20 and 30,000 in pay. So that's how I do it. How's the tech scene for programmers in Vegas? We talked about that earlier, Jason. The Vegas is it has a small tech scene in it. There's not a ton of work here in Vegas. Don't get me wrong, there is work here in Vegas, but for me personally, I have I have exceeded what the typical ceiling is for jobs here in Vegas. Most jobs here in Vegas, you're gonna cap out at about 100 grand, right? Um, so if I've gotten a job that pays above 100 grand, and my kind of lifestyle and stuff has gotten used to being at that level, if I were to take a job here in Vegas, that would be like a big pay cut for me, which is why taking this job here, which pays Vegas pay, which is cool for being in Vegas, but I didn't want to get rid of the other job I had, which was paying above that. So I just picked it up as a second gig. So, but you can definitely find work here. There are smaller startup companies. There's a burgeoning startup community here in Vegas that's being kind of pushed and fed by the Vegas Tech Fund and places like that. Tony Hsieh, who is the owner of Zappos. If people don't know, Zappos, which was started off as a shoe company, which is now a full-on apparel company. They are headquartered. They were founded and headquartered here in Las Vegas. So they took over the old downtown. They took over the old downtown. What do you call it? Town hall, whatever it is, where the government used to be at. They took that old building, and now they work out of there. So a lot of developers, work there or work at like Allegiant Airline, which was the first place I worked at, or kind of big places like that. So. Zero sports team in the SIP. Yep, no sports team in the SIP. I would love to build the app for Caesar's Palace or MGM. Yeah, you and me both, brother. You and me both, because that's probably going to be a long-term, ongoing contract. So that could potentially be very lucrative. But you gotta see what type of application it is, because just building their website probably ain't. It's like a brochure site. Like I said, there's nothing kind of interactive there. There's no hard stuff to do there. It's a template. I can tell you that. It's a templated site, because if you go between Harrah's and Bally's and Caesars, you'll start to see, oh, this is the same template. They just changed the colors and switched out the pictures, and that's all it is, So there's nothing too crazy there to make. You have to build something. Now, if you built something that generated income for them, if you built a game or casino gambling game or something, then yeah, you'd be rolling in it. You'd be rolling in it good. How many total hours are you working between the jobs? It varies, AP, depending on what tasks I've been assigned throughout the week for both of them. So it can be regular days, but like I said, last night I worked from 8 in the morning to about 9:30 at night. That wasn't straight through. I took a break and got some lunch. And when the kids come home, I usually spend a little bit of time with them, but then I come get right back in here and get to work. My lady's really good about, she knew when I took the second job, yeah, we're going to benefit from this extra money, but I'm not going to be available to Golden Child. What's going on, man? If y'all see Golden Child in the comments, you got to check him out. I don't even know what to call you, Golden Child. I can't say you're a trucker or a truck driver, because that ain't all you do. He's an entrepreneur. I'll say that. Golden Child is an entrepreneur. He's the man that kind of really inspired me to get on this YouTube thing, It was a thought that was up there, and I thought, well, maybe, do a YouTube channel. But he's the one that pushed me over the edge and was like, just do it. Create a channel, man. I don't care just create a channel. I don't care if you got 2 people, 2 subscribers, create a channel. So he's the reason why I'm on here now. He drives trucks. He owns real estate rental properties. He's an author that's written a book, How to Obtain Wealth in 30 Days. What hasn't he done? Traded stocks before. He done a little bit of everything, building his empire over there. So yeah, he's the reason why any of you guys are talking to me right now, or why I'm talking to y'all, because he keeps the fire under me to stay on top of it. Cool. Yeah, man. Yeah. You deserve it. You deserve it, brother. All right. What's the most gigs you think that you can handle and still maintain a great work-life balance? I wouldn't take on no more. As far as jobs, I wouldn't take on more than what I have now. And I'm only doing the 2 that I got now because I got a plan of what to do with that money. I didn't just take on the 2 jobs to bring in all this extra revenue and increase my lifestyle to eat that up. That would be stupid, because that would trap me into having to work these 2 jobs, and I could never, I would be stuck doing that. This is strictly a strategic move for me, to bring that extra revenue in, so I could be like, so I can get to where Golden Child is. He's got this business over here, this passive income coming in from the book and from the rental properties and stuff, and that's why I'm doing this, to get that passive income coming in from those rental properties. If you watch any of my older videos, those properties down there in southern Mississippi where the cost is low relative to the rent that you can bring in, is to take that extra money and put it there so that passive income starts coming in to the point to where I don't need that second job, but I can still maintain that amount of income that was coming in from that thing. So it's all, playing chess with everything. So that's why I'm doing it totally right there. 100% is to be smart with my money and to have multiple streams of income coming in, so that I'm not reliant on money coming from any one place. Because don't get it twisted. Either one of these jobs, they can ring my phone right now, interrupt this live stream, and tell me we don't need your services anymore, and then boom, that money's gone. If I had built my lifestyle around that income, the lifestyle's gone. All of that, it can be gone overnight when you got somebody else that's controlling you being able to feed your family. You never want to be stuck in that situation, and that's the reason I'm doing it. GC, what are the top websites to learn about coding? Is there a particular boot camp I recommend? Man, there's so many websites that's out there now. Everybody knows I learned on teamtreehouse.com, but there's sites out there, teamtreehouse.com, there's codeschool.com, there's lynda.com. Man, there's so many out there. Code Academy. If you just go into one of those sites and you take their track, I like Treehouse and Code School because a lot of them are starting to have the same kind of formula where they have a track where they kind of tell you step A, step B, step C, step D to teach you the skills. And it really helps if you go in with an idea. If you go in with an idea of a project or website or application that you want to build, because when you are learning from the site, you can immediately take the things you're learning and apply them to actual real world applications that you're trying to build. Because as you try to build something, at first you don't know where to start. So the places will teach you, here's where you start. And then you put that in your application. Then you go hit another roadblock. Well, I want to be able to do this, but I don't know how to do it. And then you research and you find, oh, here's how you do it. You put it into your application. So you progressively continue to build this application up to the point to where now you've applied all of that stuff to your real world application, and your thing is out there in the wild actually with other people using it, and you're being able to take advantage of it. So, but any of those three, I'll drop those three out there right now. TeamTreehouse.com, CodeSchool.com, Code Academy, and lynda.com are three. Oh, and pluralsight.com. So there's 5 sites that I've personally used, all of those, and I would recommend pretty much any of those to be able to get in and get your feet wet. So let's see. As far as boot camps, I don't have any boot camps I could recommend. Las Vegas had its first boot camp, their only boot camp ever, was here, started about a year and a half ago. And then it was a franchise, and the franchise decided to close. This was the one furthest west. They had a bunch of them out east, and I don't know what was going on with them, from a financial standpoint, but the franchise closed down. which meant the one that was here in Vegas was forced to close its doors as well, even though it was doing really well and people loved it and were going there. So I don't have any particular boot camps because I didn't take that boot camp route. But I can't knock boot camps because if you're the type of person that's not a self-starter where you can sit down at your own computer and learn on your own without having somebody push you, then a boot camp can help because you're gonna drop a pretty penny on it, a couple racks to get into that boot camp, and then you're surrounded by other people all doing the same thing, and you have instructors there, and you have a whole support system that's supporting you in learning the technology. So boot camps definitely have their plus if you can afford them. But if you think about it, even if a boot camp costs you $5,000 or whatever, $5,000, $10,000, that's way less than what it would cost you to pay a college or university. And you're going into a career that you know you can recoup that money back really, really quickly because it pays well. So that's a much better deal to me than going to a college or a university, putting out this $60,000, $70,000, $80,000, $100,000 or more, and you might get a degree that ain't worth the paper that it's written on, you know what I'm saying, as far as it taking you 20 years to pay that money back. So I'd pay $5,000 or $10,000 to go to a boot camp, learn those skills, get out, and you'll make that money back in the first year to be able to, recoup that money, than going to college and going that whole route. But you got to remember, I view programming as more of a trade than I do as a career. It's a highly skilled, high-paying trade. Golden Child, this morning you were talking about learn how to cut hair, or get a service company where you're washing cars. You got the trailer and you're going and you washing cars and stuff like that. Those are skills and services and trades. Or if you want to be a welder or whatever, those are trade jobs, which used to be very popular back in the day when they had the what were they called, vocational educations. They teach people how to be trades, but that stuff I heard start falling out of schools. Like they stopped teaching people how to be tradesmen. But I view being a programmer as a highly skilled, high-paid trade more so than any type of super crazy career or anything like that. Let me see, the questions were starting to roll in. 5-year retirement plan, man. That's what I'm on. It's prime for gentrification. Up. Do I prefer Mac or Windows? I'm a Mac guy, simply because the jobs. Well, when I went to college for audio engineering, it was all Macs in the recording studios. So I had to get familiar with the Mac world, and that's what introduced me to it. And then every programming job that I've been on has given me a MacBook to be able to write code with, because Mac is the terminal and the underlying kernel OS is very similar to Linux. They're both built off of the Unix kernel, if I'm not mistaken. So a lot of the terminal commands that you'll learn for Mac transfer directly over to Linux. And Linux is what a lot of the web servers are ran off of. So if you have to SSH into a web server, Ubuntu. If you have to SSH into a web server, you'll be able to pull up the terminal and use the same commands that you're familiar with on a Mac to be able to communicate with that web server. Let's see. Catch your question. Okay. What do you think about getting certifications? I live in Japan, but I want to work with an American company remotely. Do you think that's possible? Yeah, I definitely think it's possible. So that would be just like me picking up right now and moving to Japan. I could live in Japan, but still work for the two companies that I'm working for now. As long as you're comfortable with being on a U.S. Time schedule, you can totally do that, because they don't care where you're from as long as you're available when they need you and you're putting out quality code and contributing to the team. That's all that they really care about. I don't know that. Do you need a certification class for coding? No, you don't. There's no type of certification or anything that you need. Here's what I really like is that maybe one day in the future it will progress to that point, but I feel like it's perfect time from the last 10 years up to now to where there's such a need for developers that anybody can slip into this, high paying trade it has a low, I don't want to say low barrier to entry, because it definitely takes a little bit of time to learn how to do it. But there's no gatekeeper, I want to say. There's no gatekeeper that will keep you out of the industry. There's no certification you got to pass or have. There's no nothing. If you learn how to do it and you demonstrate that you can write code and write an application, all you got to do is learn first, learn from these boot camps or learn from these websites how to write code, and then start building your own little applications that you can put up, so that if I'm an employer, I can go and look at these applications that you've built and I can be like, oh, he knows how to write code because he built this application. We're going to talk about the application you built. Tell me about it. You can explain it so that I know you actually get the concepts. Boom, you can get hired just like that. Like there's no type of there's no barrier to entry, no certification that you need. If you want to go into other areas of IT, then yes, there are other areas of IT that require like certifications and stuff like that. But that's not necessarily writing code. That's say you want to get Cisco certified. Used to be a big thing back in the day, where if you wanted to be able to install Cisco networking hardware, where you're like pulling cable and wiring up a building for stuff and putting Cisco network routers and access points in and wiring all that stuff up, like physically wiring it up, then yeah, a lot of times stuff in places like that did require a certification, but it's a different segment of IT that requires that. IT kind of is the umbrella that will encompass pulling cables in a building to set up networks, or setting up networks in a server room, or programming and writing code. All of those are mutually, they don't tie into each other. But IT is kind of a big umbrella that people use to encompass all of that, but they're definitely totally different. So if you needed me to wire up a building with network stuff and no network protocols and all that stuff, I couldn't help you one bit, you know. But for this coding thing over here on this side, you don't need any certifications or any kind of barrier to entry for that at all. What did I learn first? HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. First thing I actually learned was PHP. I never got a professional working job doing PHP. I used PHP when I was doing freelance stuff. PHP is a back-end language, and we can get into front end and back end if you're not familiar with that. But it's a back-end language that I learned first, and I was really a little bit scared of JavaScript, but I don't know why, because it's just another programming language. Once you learn the concepts, pick any language. Once you learn the core concepts, every language you learn from that point is going to have those same concepts in it. So they all have like if statements, if this, then that. They're all going to have loops that say, for while this condition is true, do this. And once it's not true, stop doing that. That's a loop. That's a conditional. I mean, those are kind of the core concepts of programming. So once you've learned those concepts, you can go between one language to the other. All that's going to change is the syntax. The way you write the language, it might be different, but those core concepts of like if conditionals and loops and stuff is all the same between the different programming languages. So, boom. Could you move back to Mississippi on the money you're... Yeah, I can move back to Mississippi on the money that I'm making. If I move back to Mississippi on the money that I'm making, I would be in the top 1% for income earners in the entire state. Yeah, I think I looked that up before. If you make more than, I don't know, 130,000 or something like that in a year, then you're like in the top 1% or something like that of earners. So in Mississippi, I would be balling, because I could buy a house and have a mortgage payment of $600, you know, or something like that, instead of out here. What's the hardest part of learning the code? In the very beginning, just learning those core concepts of the if conditionals, the for loops, and how to tie all of those abstract all of those abstract things together to have it produce the application. There's a big disconnect between here's an if statement and a for loop, and here's this application that I want to build. How do I fill in that gap in the middle? It's all foggy in the beginning, and it don't make sense, and you can't see how do I go from writing if, you know, x equals 1, do this, to, you know, here's this booking application that I want to be able to book my clients for my business or whatever. You know, there's a big gap in between there, and learning how to close that gap is the hardest part. So now pretty much any application that I wanted to write or build, I could pretty much do. I could figure out how to go from this thought and idea to a finished application that people are using, because I know what all the stuff that needs to happen in between is. Even if I'm not an expert at all the stuff in between, I at least know what they are, so that I can find somebody that is an expert at these particular things to help me get to here, you know. Boom. Seems like I just need to get in. Yeah, that's it. The very beginning is it. The very beginning is the hardest. What is a good income range starting out once I learn how to code? We was talking about that a little while back. This guy was saying that he was picking up a job for that was starting out at 50 to 60K, and that's a decent starting out when you haven't proven yourself that you know what you're doing. If somebody's willing to pay you 50K for it, then that's decent. That's if you're going to get a traditional, you know, job. Now, if you are freelancing, meaning that you're out there for yourself, working for yourself, then you can charge whatever you want to charge, whatever somebody's willing to pay you. You know, whatever you can get them to pay you, rather, and then you just have to perform. So if they pay you 10 grand to build them a website, then you just got to build them a website to their satisfaction within the time frame that they want for the contract that you have with them, and you know, you're good, you're Gucci. But if you want to get a traditional job, I'd say shoot for about 50K if you could. To at least start out there if you haven't proven yourself. Now, once you've proven yourself, you can very quickly go up from there. Like I said, the biggest pay jumps that I've had and that I've seen my programmer friends have has been going between jobs. If I had stayed at Allegiant that was paying me 55, right now, that's been a few years ago, I'd probably be at from 55 to what, 80? I don't know. Especially here in Vegas, when you're capping out at about 100, I'd probably be 80, 85 instead of making what I make now. So doing those job jumps will get you your opportunities to make the big increases in pay. But once you get a year under, it's kind of like trucking, GC. You get a year under your belt, then a lot of people will want to mess with you. A lot more people want to mess with you because you've proven that, you know, you can actually do this thing. Somebody has thought that you could program at least well enough to pay you for an entire year. So you know, a lot more people will want to take a shot on you and pay you money to be able to produce for them as well. It's crazy. You mentioned in one of your videos you didn't have a computer science degree. I don't, and was successful getting your first job as a web developer. How did you first come out? How did you first find out about web development? I kind of told that story where that was Jacob. So when I graduated high school, I went to the local junior college where I was from for a degree called Management Information Systems, and there was two tracks you could take. You could either take networking, which was the stuff I was talking about before, where you're like setting up networking in these big buildings and stuff like that, or running a server room or something like that. And then there was a track for programming, which is where they start teaching you how to write code. And I signed up for that, and I took the programming track. So that was my first introduction to programming. This was in the year 2099 or 2000. Yeah, this is before. What's that? Before Facebook, before Google, before any of that stuff. You know, I was in there learning that. Now I only made it 3 semesters, I think, before I started messing up so bad that they, you know, pulled my little partial scholarship I had and told me they were going to put me on probation and kick me out of school because I was messing up, man. I was young in the head and not disciplined. And I left from then in the year 2000, 2001. I joined the Air Force, and I didn't circle back around to programming until 2012 is when I circled back around to it. But from those first classes, I took those 3 semesters of classes. I think my first class was Visual Basic. And then they started teaching us like COBOL, old COBOL stuff, and RPG, which was these old AS400 mainframe computer programming languages, and then C++. But from that, I got those first concepts of like what a for loop is, what looping is, and what an if statement, if conditional is. And but it wasn't until 12 years later where I circle back around to it. And I didn't know what type of programming I wanted to be, a system programmer or architect. All these words were flying around. I had no clue what they meant. But I knew a couple people that were doing web development, you know. And so I had heard that term, and I just started researching to find out what a web developer is, what does he do. I started out thinking that they just built like a mom and pop website, like Joe has a pizza joint and he needs a website to show you what kind of pizzas you can get. I thought that's all it was. And then I learned about web applications and how people are moving stuff from desktop stuff to being in the cloud, which basically means on the web. And now all these people are writing these applications that used to be on a desktop and putting them on the web. Like QuickBooks or something. You used to have to buy the CD at Office Depot and put it in your computer, and you would run QuickBooks on your own computer. It wasn't connected to the internet or anything like that. And now you probably can't even find that. QuickBooks is just online. Well, somebody had to take that program that was on a CD, and they had to code it to work on the internet, on the web. That's what building a web application is. They took that application that was on you, used to only be able to come on your computer, and they built that application on the internet using HTML, CSS, JavaScript, and some type of backend language to talk to a database and store the information in and retrieve information from the database and send it to your computer on your desk. That's all. Those are all web developers or web application builders. And that's what I do. I build applications that used to run on your computer, and I put those on the internet. And that's what I do all day, every day. IT guy, I want to get into programming. Said I only got about 2 or 3 more minutes. And then I got to get back to work, man. For Inspire Me, when I told a white IT guy I want to get into programming, he said that I don't look like a coder, but it's good to see more people that look like me. But another IT guy in Japan, and you have inspired to start learning again. Yeah, man, there is no look to a coder. So for him saying you don't look like a coder, that means he doesn't know very much, because there is no look for a coder. Everybody can be a coder. I've met programmers that were white, black, Indian, East Indian, from everywhere, man. Hawaiian, everywhere. You name it. There are people from everywhere. There's guys, females, it doesn't matter. Anybody can do it. And like in my diversity video, I said, if you are a minority, then you almost have a leg up, because so many companies nowadays are pushing to be more diverse, that they're looking for, you know, minorities that can do the job, that can do the same job. So Definitely don't let that stand in your way. There is no look for a coder or developer, man. That makes me want to laugh. So, as a matter of fact, that kind of comes from the Bay Area, from my knowledge on it and what I know. Apparently, in the Bay, there's a high prevalence of white male programmers. I don't know. I'm not from the Bay. I've interviewed in the Bay before for a job like that startup, and that I ended up getting. But like out here in Vegas, and when I go to meetups and stuff, well, I guess it's not. There's not a. I don't run into a lot of black coders. Now that is a rarity for me, but I run into a lot of coders that are non-white. You know, so I wouldn't let that stop you at all. All right, I think I'm gonna wrap this up, guys. The lady's pulling up right now with the kids, so it's about to get crazy in here, to say the least. And that's it, man. This was cool. As the first time going live, I think I'm gonna do this more often. I appreciate it. Join the Slack channel if you want to holler at me in the Slack channel. I can definitely answer some questions there. Other than that, I'll talk to all y'all later, man. Peace.